When Alex moved into the old apartment, he thought the strange door at the end of the hallway was just part of the building's weird charm. It was narrow, slightly too tall, with peeling white paint and a tarnished brass handle. The only problem was simple and impossible at the same time. The door had no keyhole, no lock, no visible seam where the frame should meet the wall, no sign it had ever been opened at all. At first, he laughed it off. Timestamp, 2025, 12:06, 21, 11:37. Then the knocking started, from the other side, in the middle of the night. Not asking to be let in, but asking to be let out. Alex's heart wasn't picky. He needed a place fast, cheap, quiet, and close enough to work that his dying car could survive a few more months. The old brick building on Rosemont Street seemed perfect. The landlord, a tired man with nicotine-stained fingers, said the top-floor unit had been empty for a while, but the rent was low, and the timestamp, 25, 12:06, 21, 11:37. The apartment was outdated but livable. Scuffed hardwood floors, tall ceilings, chipped molding. A narrow hallway led from the living room toward the bedroom and bathroom, with one odd detail at the very end. A door that didn't belong. It looked older than everything else. The frame was slightly warped, sunk deeper into the wall, like the building had been built around it. The white paint had bubbled and cracked in thin spiderweb patterns. A brass handle sat in the timestamp, 2025, 12:06, 21, 11:37. But there was no keyhole, no lock plate, nothing. Just a handle mounted on wood. "What's that door go to?" Alex asked. The landlord didn't even look at it. "Storage. Sealed up years ago. Just ignore it." Alex stepped closer, expecting at least a keyhole or a gap where the frame met plaster. Instead, the edges of the door seemed fused into the wall, as if someone had painted over every seam 100 times. When he pressed his fingertips along the side, there was timestamp, 2025, 12:06, 21, 11:37. Not even the faint draft most old doors have. It was like touching a painted picture of a door instead of a real one. Still, he shrugged it off. Old buildings had quirks. A sealed storage space wasn't the weirdest thing in the world. He signed the lease. That night he fell asleep to the familiar hum of city noise. For a few hours, everything was normal. The first knock came a little after 3 a.m. It was soft, 3 short taps. Not angry, not urgent. Just testing. Timestamp, 2025, 12:06, 21, 11:37. Alex woke up, eyes unfocused, unsure what had disturbed him. For a moment, the apartment was silent except for the faint buzz of the fridge and distant traffic below. He waited, breath held, then laughed at himself and turned over. The knock came again. Same pattern, 3 taps. This time, he was awake enough to realize exactly where the sound was coming from. The end of the hallway. The door. He sat up, pulse quickening. "Hello?" he called, voice cracking slight. Timestamp, 2025, 12:06, 21, 11:37. The word sounded small in the dark. Nothing answered. He got up, grabbed his phone for light, and walked quietly toward the hallway. The closer he got, the more ordinary the door looked. Just wood and paint and an old handle. No light under a crack, no shadows, nothing. He pressed his ear against it. The wood was cold. He waited 5 seconds, 10, 15. Then something gently knocked back, once directly where his ear rested. He jumped away so fast he nearly slipped. Timestamp, 2025 to 12:06, 21, 11:37. He stood there in the thin beam of phone light, staring at the door as if it might suddenly swing open. But the handle didn't move. The air didn't stir. After a while, he told himself it was pipes or neighbors or some old building noise. He went back to bed. It took him a long time to fall asleep. The next night, the knocking started again. The pattern repeated itself over the next week. Always between 2:30 and 3:30 a.m., always 3 taps at first. Timestamp, 2025, 12:06, 21 tier, 11:37. Some nights, it stopped after a single sequence. Other nights, it continued, growing more insistent, as if whoever, or whatever, was behind the door was getting used to having someone on the other side. During the day, Alex tried to rationalize it away. He knocked on walls, listened to pipes, checked the unit next door, even went downstairs to ask the neighbor if she'd heard anything. The woman below, an older lady with thinning gray hair, gave him a long, tired low. Timestamp 2025 12:06 21 11:37. She wiped her hands on a dish towel and shook her head. I don't hear anything from up there. Never have. Back in his apartment, the door waited. He ran his fingers along the edges, pressing for a gap, a seam, anything. There was nothing. The frame and wall felt like a single solid piece. He tried the handle, turning it slowly. It moved less than a centimeter in either direction and stopped, stuck fast, as though there were no latch on the other side at timestamp 2025 12:06 21 11:37. Out of sheer stubbornness, he dragged a chair over, climbed up, and examined the top edge. No gap, no sign of hinges. He checked the bottom. No light, no draft. He even tried pushing the door with his shoulder, then pulling, then slamming his fist against it in frustration. It didn't rattle, it didn't flex. It simply absorbed the impact with a dull, unfazed thud. Finally, he called the landlord. That door at the end of the hall, Alex said. It's weird. Do you timestamp 2025 12:06 21 11:37? Told you, the landlord replied, already annoyed. It's sealed. Storage. Old building stuff. Don't worry about it. I'm hearing knocking from inside. There was a pause on the line, longer than it should have been. Probably pipes, the landlord said at last, or noise from the stairwell. Just give it time. You'll get used to the place. Alex hung up, unease knotting in his stomach. That night, when the knocking returned, he didn't go to the door. Timestamp 2025 12:06 21 11:37. He stayed in bed, staring at the ceiling, listening as the soft raps continued, a little louder, a little more confident, as if something unseen was getting comfortable with the idea of being heard. The more the door knocked, the more it invaded his thoughts. Alex, who had always considered himself rational, started doing things he would have mocked himself for a month earlier. He searched forum posts about sealed doors, phantom knocking, rooms that don't exist. Timestamp 2025 12:06 21 11:37. People online blamed rats, plumbing, thin walls. None of that explained the way the sound always came from that exact spot, or how it only started once he'd fallen asleep. On Saturday, he went to the local records office. If the landlord wouldn't talk, maybe the building's paper trail would. It took time, but he eventually found the file. The brick building on Rosemont, decades of ownership transfers, inspection notes, old, smudged floor plans. Timestamp 2025 12:UC 21 11:37. 50 years ago, the layout of his apartment had been slightly different. The blueprint showed a small storage room at the end of the hallway in his unit, about the size of a walk-in closet, with a normal door that opened onto the hall. Nothing strange, no mention of it being sealed, no record of construction to cover it. Tucked among the papers, he found a handwritten memo from a former building manager. Unit 5C, tenant reports persistent knocking from storage R, timestamp 2025 12:06 21 11:37. Lock changed twice. Noise continues. Room emptied. Door sealed for safety. Advise no further entry. Below that, in a different pen and handwriting, another note. Do not rent 5C long-term. Tenants complain of disturbances. Door at end of hall must stay closed. No key to be issued. Alex stared at the paper until the letters blurred. On the walk home, he couldn't shake the feeling that the door had been there longer than any of the people who'd written those no. Timestamp 2025 12:06 21 11:37. Maybe longer than the building itself in its current form. When he stepped back into the apartment that afternoon, the hallway seemed slightly dimmer. The door at the end looked the same as always, peeling paint, brass handle, no keyhole, but it felt different, as if it were paying attention. That night, the knocking changed. It started earlier, closer to midnight, and the rhythm shifted. Instead of 3 identical taps, it came as sure. Timestamp 2025 12:06 21 11:37. Alex sat on the edge of his bed, eyes fixed on the dark hallway. His chest rose and fell in shallow breaths. The knocking continued, steady and patient. Finally, he couldn't stand it. He got up, grabbed his phone and a crowbar he'd bought just in case, and walked toward the door. When he stopped in front of it, the knocking stopped too, as if whatever was behind it had heard him approach and gone silent. "Who's there?" he asked. The question sounded pathetic. Ev, timestamp, 2025, 12:06, 21:11:37. He wedged the flat end of the crowbar into the thin crevice where the frame should have met the wall and pushed, muscles straining. Metal groaned. Paint flaked away in curls. His arms burned. The door didn't move, not even a fraction. Frustration flared. He slammed the crowbar against the wood. "Open!" he shouted. "If you're going to knock, then open." For a moment, nothing happened. Then something hit the door from the other side. It was not a gentle tap, this timestamp, 2025, 12:06, 21:11:37. It was a heavy, bone-deep thud, like a massive fist striking solid wood. The door shook under the impact, not like it was about to break open, but like something enormous had leaned its weight against it. The hallway light flickered. Alex stumbled backward, crowbar clattering on the floor. The air felt thicker, heavy in his lungs, as though the atmosphere itself had been pushed into the hallway with him. Very slowly, the brass handle turned. It moved with deliberate. Timestamp, 2025 to 12:06, 21:11:07. A quarter turn. Then half. All the way down. His breath caught. The latch should have clicked. The door should have opened. Nothing. The handle stayed fully depressed, held down by something on the other side. As he watched, the realization slid into him like ice. Whatever was in there wasn't trying to force its way out. It was showing him that it could. After a moment that felt like forever, the handle released and returned to its resting position. The knocking. Timestamp, 2025, 12:06, 21:11:37. After that, Alex's world shrank to the door and the space around it. He started leaving his bedroom light on, then the hallway light, then eventually every lamp in the apartment, afraid of what the darkness might encourage. One afternoon, he dragged a bookshelf in front of the door and stacked it full of heavy books. It made him feel safer for exactly one night. At 3:12 a.m., the knocking returned. 3 soft taps. Timestamp, 2025, 12:06, 21:11:37. Then a slow scraping sound followed, like the back of something large, sliding against the shared wall behind the bookshelf. Not the door rattling, something moving with intent. In the morning, the bookshelf still stood where he'd left it, but all the books on the shelf closest to the door had fallen forward in a perfectly straight line, like something had pressed firmly against their backs in one smooth motion. He called the landlord again, his voice frayed. "You, timestamp, 2025, 12:06, 21:11:37. There's something in there, an animal, a person, something. I keep hearing it." "There is nothing in that room," the landlord snapped. "It is sealed. It has been sealed since before I owned the building. If you're having issues, maybe this isn't the right unit for you." "I'm not imagining this." There was a pause. When the landlord spoke again, his voice was lower. "Listen, I've had 4 tenants in that unit in 10 years. None stayed more than a few months. All a timestamp, 2025, 12:06, 21:11:37. All of them heard things. None of them ever saw anything. If you want to break the lease, I won't fight you. That's the best I can do." He hung up. The idea of leaving should have felt like relief. Instead, it felt like walking away from a question that had dug hooks into his mind. What was behind the door with no keyhole? How long had it been knocking? How many people had listened and turned their backs? That night, when the knocking started, he did something. Timestamp, 2025, 12:06, 21:11:37. He knocked back. 3 taps. The response was immediate. 3 taps in return. The same rhythm, but just a bit louder. Closer. "Can you hear me?" he whispered. Silence. He pressed his palm flat against the door. The wood was so cold it almost burned. After a few seconds, he felt something else too. The faintest vibration beneath his hand. A low, steady pulse, like the echo of a slow exhale. Something on the other side was breathing. The final night began with a die timestamp, 2025, 12:06, 21:11:37. Expectant. Alex sat on the couch, a half-packed box beside him, listening. He'd told himself he would leave in the morning. He just had to make it through one more night. The knocks didn't come at 2:30. They didn't come at 3. The apartment felt like it was holding its breath. Around 3:37 a.m., a new sound started. Not a knock, but a faint continuous scraping, like nails dragging down the inside of the door from top to bottom. Then the handle turned. All the way. Timestamp 2025, 12:06, 21:11:37. Hairline cracks split from the doorframe into the plaster wall, branching out like veins. The wood itself didn't move. The wall did. The building seemed to resist, creaking under the strain. Alex grabbed his keys, heart slamming against his ribs, and bolted for the apartment entrance. The hallway felt longer than it ever had, but he kept his eyes on the front door, refusing to look back at the sealed one. Timestamp 2025, 12:06, 21:11:37. He twisted the deadbolt, flung the door open, and stepped into the common corridor, and froze. At the far end of the building's hallway, where there should have been the stairwell door, there was another door. Narrow, slightly too tall, white paint peeling in spiderweb patterns, brass handle, no keyhole. For a moment, his mind refused to accept it. This was the building hallway, not his apartment. The door at the end of his own hallway could not also be here. Timestamp 2025, 12:06, 21:11:37. Yet it stood there, wrong and out of place, leaning ever so slightly toward him. Behind him, from inside his unit, the knocking resumed. Louder now. Forceful. The door inside pounded against the wall that refused to move, each impact echoing through the building. Then, somewhere above him, another knock answered. Alex looked up. Timestamp 2025, 12:06, 21:11:37. On the ceiling, directly overhead, cracks were forming in the paint, spreading outward in the familiar shape of a doorframe, as if the building was trying to decide where to place it next. He backed toward where the stairs should have been, never taking his eyes off the end of the corridor. With shaking hands, he felt for the stairwell handle behind him, found it, yanked it open, and stumbled down the stairs. He didn't stop until he was outside, standing in the sea. Timestamp 2025, 12:06, 21:11:37. He kept walking until Rosemont Street was 3 blocks behind him. When he finally returned in daylight with a friend and the landlord, the apartment was quiet. The door at the end of the hallway looked perfectly ordinary again. Sealed, solid, handle unmoving, paint cracked just as before. No fractures in the wall, no sign of stress. His friend laughed awkwardly about him, freaking himself out. The landlord didn't laugh. He just stared at the door with a tired R. Timestamp 2025, 12:06, 21:11:37. "Are you staying?" the landlord asked. Alex looked at the door with no keyhole, its edges a little too clean, as if reality had been smoothed over where it connected to the wall. "No," he said. "I'm done." He moved out within the week. The unit on Rosemont Street is empty again now. The landlord tells prospective tenants that the back room is sealed storage, nothing more. Some people notice the door at the end of the hall and barely give it a second thought. Timestamp 2025, 12:06, 21:11:37. Others mention feeling uneasy, like they're being watched from the other side. Every few months, a neighbor on the floor below complains about knocking in the walls in the middle of the night, like someone trapped in a crawlspace. Maintenance blames air in the pipes. The landlord pretends not to hear. Timestamp 2025, 12:06, 21:11:37. And in the quietest hours, when the building is dark and everyone is asleep, something patiently tests the handle from the inside, again and again, waiting for the day the wall around it finally cracks enough to let it through. If you ever move into an old building and find a door with no keyhole, no seam, no sign it was ever meant to open, don't knock back. Don't press your ear to the wood. Timestamp 2025, 12:06, 21:11:37. And if it knocks first, make sure you're not still there the night it decides it doesn't need a keyhole anymore to open. Timestamp 06, 4:11:37.